Hey, what's going on? Danny here with PT Biz, and today we're talking about profit, growth cycles, and what to do with your cash along the way. So this question comes from our mastermind. So one of the things in the PT Biz Mastermind that we do is we have internal channels where our clients can reach out to us with any question that they have. And one of the things that I tend to get a lot of is questions about finance, and in particular, how to manage cash flow. This is a really big challenge that a lot of business owners face. And in particular, when we look at service-based businesses, they're fairly capital intensive, meaning you need a physical building, you need to pay, highly educated staff. You have, equipment that you need to outfit a space with. It's not a massive amount, but even still, it costs money, right? It's not a website, or you're not just selling stuff through social media where maybe it's not very capital intensive. You don't need too much money for that, but it's just a different business model. So one of the questions that I recently got was about how to manage cash flow during growth cycles. And we talk about this a lot. It's something that I'm constantly working with business owners on, trying to really help them understand how to allocate money effectively, because when you go through a growth cycle, and let me step back and just kind of explain what that is. But a growth cycle would basically be where you're going from typically a sublease space. So you have a small footprint, maybe within somebody else's facility, and you're moving into a standalone space. So it's your own space. Maybe it's in a commercial building or a retail building or whatever it is, but you have your own fixed space that has its own rent and utilities, and you have to build it out and outfit it with equipment and design it and everything else, right? So you could jump straight into this. Most people do not. That's probably a smaller percentage than people that are going to sort of test the waters with a sublease space, low overhead, try to build their schedule up, build some cash flow and reserves. Then they move into a growth cycle. And a growth cycle is very similar to growing pains that people feel when they're growing physically, right? So like my kids are in middle school, it's happening to them right now. They're like, why do my shins hurt? My knees hurt, right? It's like they're going through growing pains because they're getting tall at this stage. They're growing a lot. So when your business does this, where you really feel it is in your profit and in cash flow and profitability. So what happens is, for a lot of businesses at early stage, whenever you're doing like a subleased route and you have very little overhead, you may keep 70 to 80% of what you're bringing in, depending on a number of factors. So for every dollar you make, you're keeping maybe 70 cents to 80 cents of that is going into your account before you pay taxes, obviously. So that's awesome. That's very profitable, but you're doing everything yourself, right? You're doing everything yourself. And so you really just have a job at that point, which a lot of people, they stay there. That's a lifestyle business for them. Nothing wrong with that if that fits what you want to do. So from there, but if you want to grow a real business and hire other people and have work done without you doing it, and be able to have a, non-active work, we should say, being done, or potentially even grow to the point where there's a passive entity in a business or something that grows well past that, you can't skip a growth cycle. You just can't. You have to move into a space, and it's painful for a lot of people, okay? This is a very painful stage because they go from keeping 70, 80% of every dollar that comes in to maybe they're down to, at the lowest, maybe like 10 to 30%, right? So 10 to 30% of what they're bringing in, they're keeping early on because they have all this additional fixed overhead between paying for staff and the building and everything else, the equipment loans, whatever it might be. So during that stage, this can be very confusing for providers about what they should or shouldn't do. So one of the things that we teach is how to sort of manage cash flow through different accounts. This is a variation of something called Profit First, which is a great book if you want to read that. Profit First is a great sort of financial management approach, but it's kind of complex, honestly, for the type of businesses that we run. I think it's a bit too much. There's too many accounts going on and all kinds of things. We find that really, if you have 3 different accounts, it's the simplest way to do it for most people. So you have an operating account. That operating account is where all the income from the business, all the revenue for the business is coming in. You're paying your bills out of that and everything else. You're paying all your overhead, comes out of the operating account. You're also paying yourself out of that, right? So you have your own salary as an employee in the business. From there, you also have a tax account. You're going to have to pay taxes. But I guess one silver lining in a growth stage is you're making far less money during the stage, you're less profitable, so you actually pay less taxes. So that tax account really can fluctuate. It can be anywhere between 5 and 30% of what you're bringing in to the operating account that you're going to move over there. So you're always going to have some tax to pay unless you're losing money, which is obviously not a great place to be. But most of the time, you're going to pay taxes. So there's going to be somewhere between 5 and 30% you're going to move over to that. Now, the profit account is where it gets tricky. That's the third account. And that's where we want people to put money aside for profit so that, quarterly they can pay themselves out a certain amount as far as profitability goes. And that could be anywhere between 0% and 20%, depends on the business stage and the profitability. But you're going to slide money over there in a profit account that you're going to it's just a secondary account you're saving money in that you can pay yourself, right? So you're just creating these buckets so that you're not spending it all in the business. This is the best way to look at it. Well, for a lot of folks, they're funding their profit account with 20% or whatever whenever they're a single provider, and then it drops to like 0 during a phase whenever they're going through a growth cycle. Or maybe they keep funding the profit account and they're having to take money from the profit account to pay for the actual business operating expenses because their profitability is so low. And this is where we have typically a challenging moment with folks where they freak out a little bit. They're like, oh my God, my profit account I'm not putting any money in my profit account. Like, what am I going to do? And this is very normal because here's what you got to keep in mind. Your business is an investment. It's no different than if you were to buy Google stock or whatever, like some publicly held company, you would invest money that you make and you put it into that. Well, instead of you taking money and putting it into a separate business, you're taking that money and you're putting it into your own business. So your business is the investment. Your profit account may have 0 money in it. That's because all the money from that, you're now reinvesting in the vehicle of your own business. So during that stage, your profitability is very low, very low. And what you have to really realize during this stage is, number one, if you know it's coming, it's better. It's sort of like imagine someone's going to punch you in the stomach, okay? It's going to happen. And there's 2 different scenarios. One, you don't know it's going to happen and you don't know when or who's going to do it, nothing, right? So it's just complete surprise. And someone's probably going to tag you and knock the wind out of you. Now, that's one scenario. Or would you prefer that you know is going to happen, you know who's going to do it, you know when they're going to do it, and they're going to tell you ahead of time, like, I'm going to punch you in the stomach, get ready, and you can get ready for it, and you can absorb the blow much better. This is kind of like knowing whether a growth cycle is coming or not and what to do with it, because it's going to suck either way. It's a growth cycle. You have to grow through this, and it feels like a step backward to take a step forward. And in some ways it is, because your net profitability, the money you keep, goes down. Your top line revenue, your gross revenue goes up. So as you see your gross revenue going up, your profitability is less, but that's because you're doing less of the overall work. You're not fulfilling on all the patients. You're paying other people to do that. You're not doing all the administrative work. You're paying other people to do that. You have a facility you can grow into, right? These are all the things that you're reinvesting from the profit account, from your operating account, from the business into the actual business itself so it can continue to grow. Now, during this stage, like I said, if you know it's coming, you can prepare for it better. You've got to know that during this time of your life, you need to live as lean as you possibly can. You need to pay yourself as little as you can afford to do so for your family and your lifestyle, because this is a very delicate stage where you need to ride this out. And you need to ride it out until you have, in most cases, yourself plus 2 full-time providers to really get back to a stage where your profit is in a healthy position. A 3rd full-time provider puts you in a much better spot, like so much better as far as profitability is concerned. So if you have a space that can absorb that number of people, you've got to really try to grow to that stage as best you can, as fast as you can, to really get through this growth cycle without it dragging on for 5 years, hopefully. And that's because it puts you in a much, much better profitable stage. But if you're taking your family to Disney and going on a European vacation and buying a new car during this stage, you're just robbing your ability to reinvest back in your business. And I hate to say it because, you don't want to necessarily put off living your life, but in some cases you have to make these compromises based on what your goals are long-term and what you're going to do short-term. Short-term pain for long-term success is the way you have to look at it. So your profit account may have absolutely 0 money in it, and that's totally normal during these stages. In fact, you probably shouldn't have any money in it. It should all reinvest back in the business or to pay yourself whatever it is that you need to make in order to live your life within reason. so that you can get through this growth cycle. So in summary, when you go through a growth cycle, don't worry about your profitability during this stage. It's going to suck, okay? Know that it's going to suck. You cannot maintain super, super high profit margins while you're expanding to a new space that's not optimized just yet, while you're taking on loans in order to do that, while you're, really driving back into hiring staff and increasing your overhead of your payroll, and they're not fully optimal. Like it doesn't work that way. You can't hire somebody and their schedule is completely full immediately. Not the first person, right? It's very rare if that ever happens. Same thing with the second and third. It gets easier each person that you hire, but early on, those percentages are going to be low. It's normal. Don't worry about the profitability in your business so much during that stage. Keep an eye on your finances and everything. It's important to fiscally understand what you're doing and where things are going. But if you see your profit dip, if you see your total profitability as far as what you're paying yourself and any profit you have in the business, and it's like 15, 18%, I mean, we see it go that low depending on certain areas where people have very, very, high cost of living areas. Maybe their rent is very expensive for their space. It may dip a lot, and then it shoots back up as they add staff after that. So remember, your business is the best investment you can possibly make. Yourself and your business is where it's at. Take that money, make sure you're putting it back in the business. Don't take it out and put it in other things, whether it's your lifestyle or even investing outside the business during this stage. This is very, very delicate time in the business. You want to really make sure you have the cash to fund that. You're building reserves along the way. You're trying to get to where you have 3 to 6 months of cash on hand so you can make better decisions in your business. Like that is money that you need to have there so that you're not freaking out and firing somebody because you have, a slower month than you wanted and you got to let somebody go that's great. Like you don't want to do that. It's going to slow you down long term. So keep in mind, growth cycles, they're tough. They're going to eat up your profitability. But at the end of the day, the faster you can get to that second, that third provider, the faster you get back to very healthy profitability with you not doing everything, with you having built a true business. And then from there, you can cruise if you want to do that. If you want to get to a point where you can really start to stabilize your finances personally, stabilize the business's finances, once you're at that second, third full-time person that's busy, your business should be in a very healthy profitability position and you can chill there, right? You don't have to just up and to the right the whole time. That may be the game you don't want to play. You might want to go up and then hang. And then maybe you decide you want to add a second location or grow into a bigger location. That would go through another growth cycle. And the second one's not nearly as bad as the first. It's much easier for you to manage because you have far more cash flow coming in and your business is typically in a far better cash position as well as you are personally. So you might decide that, you want to take your time and do that. You don't have to just sprint to a 7-figure business if that's not the game you want to play. So anyway, hope this helps. I know this is a frustrating stage for people. It's kind of hard to understand what to do with your cash. This is my recommendations as far as what we talk about with our mastermind members. If you are struggling with things like this yourself, you don't know the nuts and bolts of finance, of how to actually run your practice, you don't know how to market, you don't know how to sell, you don't know how to hire people or give people feedback. I mean, did you learn that shit in school? Like, be honest, like you didn't learn shit in school as far as it comes to running a business. Maybe you had a little business class where you had to put together a mock scenario of a clinic or whatever. That's probably the most that you got. You're hurting yourself if you don't know how to run your own business, period. Okay? It's that simple. Being a great clinician is not enough. It's enough to get your own schedule busy. In some cases, if you have an outstanding reputation in your area and you've been there for years and people will come over with you. But then after that, now what are you going to do? Like if you want to stay in a small, lifestyle business, that's totally fine. If you want to grow past yourself, I'm telling you, you've got to learn how to run a business. You're a liability on the future of your business if you do not understand how to run a business. Being a great clinician is not enough. It's just not. You need to be a great business owner as well. And in some cases, you need to be a business owner first and a clinician second if you really want to grow a big practice. If you're looking to try to, really grow your knowledge on the business owner side and you want to be a part of more of a business clinical residency program that we've put together, we would love to talk to you about that. That's what we help people with all the time. We build phenomenal business owners that are clinicians. They go on to have success in many, many places within their clinic, outside their clinic, other businesses. We teach people how to be great business owners, and that's something that we've been doing for a long time. If you're interested, head to physicaltherapybiz.com. You can take a look at what we have going on there. But don't be the liability in your business during growth cycles and going forward because you are just crippling your ability to grow to the future vision that you have for your practice.